You're listening to Blast Podcasting, episode 17.
9999. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Blast Podcasting. This is Anthony.
This is Xander.
Oh, we got a good episode for you.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a pretty interesting episode,
We were planning something else. Oh, can I tell what we were planning?
Yeah, definitely.
We were going to do Dark Crystal, but because of all the stuff that's come out video game-wise, I haven't really watched a whole lot aside from wrestling and a few animes, but that's it. Haven't even watched Dark Crystal.
Yeah, I honestly, I've been so busy on my end, and we had a freaking hurricane in between recordings, so I was just kind of like, I was very, very busy with the storm, so I couldn't really sit back and watch any Netflix at the time.
Yeah. So maybe someday we'll go back to it, but we kind of can't at the moment because we have some other stuff planned for you guys.
Yeah.
After this, so including our what, Xander?
Our 1 year anniversary.
Hell yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy because we're almost a year into, we're pretty much a year into this one. In fact, about a year ago, this is when we started to get really serious about planning this out, huh?
Yeah. I remember it was closely around the same time that season 2 of Castlevania on the Netflix, that show, and it had just aired, is when we were really starting to get ready for it.
Yeah, and when we got it going, it's kicked off, and we've had a lot of success with it. And I'll say this: we're about 6 months into almost 6 months into Absolute Counter.
Yeah.
Did you listen to the new episode?
I have. Yeah, I haven't had a chance yet, but it's a really good podcast. I really do enjoy listening to it. I think you and Darkscream do a really good job.
It's funny because it's kind of like what you do with XS Gaming, which I still listen to. I love it. Like, James is like really a cool dude, and you're one of my dearest friends. But James is really cool, and Darkscream is one of my dearest friends. So it's kind of like we have our gaming podcast, and then we have our pop culture podcast.
Indeed, even though this episode is going to be a really heavy into gaming, because we're going to be talking about the infamous 9999, which is a huge big thing in gaming history. First and foremost, getting into it, talking about Final Fantasy VIII, especially with the HD remaster just came out.
I don't know if I know I told this story maybe over a decade ago in other podcasts I did back in the day, like in 2009, but I don't know if you know my story about Final Fantasy VIII, where I almost got kicked out of the mall.
Oh, tell that. I have never heard this story.
Okay. So I was 16 years old, 1999. But fuck, that's a long time ago. 16 years of age, and I had recently really discovered the love of the JRPGs in 97. So I was eating through those. Right? And I had played some amazing games, especially Xenogears. But I was still, no matter what I thought about Xenogears, even though it's my favorite game of all time, I was still heavily anticipating FF8, right? Because of 7.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the deal, dude. My grades were good. That I got pulled out of school early that day to go pick up my copy of Final Fantasy VIII.
Awesome. That's great.
Hell yeah. So I went, and my game, it was Software Etc. It's GameStop now. It's the GameStop I still go to this day, 20 years later, in the same exact spot, which is crazy. But I went in there, and there was a kid with a Final Fantasy VII shirt, and he was with his buddy, and they were walking super slow, and there's kind of a crowd around me. So this I'm not proud of, okay? I wanted my fucking game. And I knew that I was it was these kids or me getting the first, because I was an arrogant little prick. I ran up, walked behind them because I was getting irritated, and I pushed in between them and ran to the GameStop. And I shoved one of them down on the ground.
Holy shit.
So I got my game, and I saw them in the far distance where they couldn't see me. They were pointing at the GameStop. I saw that they were talking to security guard. I got the fuck out of there.
That is, oh my gosh, that is so funny. You went freaking
I
Black Friday soccer mom on them.
well, I was. It's not something. Look, I have a reputation of being an asshole, but I would never do that now. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
But
we
I
all
was a
kind of cool out when we get a little older. We kind of mellow out a little bit.
little older. Yeah. So I shoved those kids, grabbed FF8. I never felt guilty about it till about maybe 2007 when I thought about it, which is bad. But yeah, those I feel bad about it now because those kids were just excited for the game as me.
Mm-hmm.
But what can you do, right?
Yeah, my introduction to Final Fantasy VIII. I mean, of course, Final Fantasy VII was such a big thing. So when we heard that 8 was coming out and the way it looked, and it was just completely mesmerizing. And the first time I remember playing it was actually with a demo disc from Pizza Hut. I had the Pizza Hut demo disc,
Oh,
and that's how we got into it. And I remember that demo disc was awesome because it had Final Fantasy VIII, it had Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on it. I mean, I think it had a couple of other games that maybe like Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver or something like that. But I mean, those were like the two games that we kept going back to,
right.
me and my friends, and it was such a huge step from Final Fantasy VII to Final Fantasy VIII, just graphic wise. Because Final Fantasy VII had a very
Oh
different
yeah.
art style. Cloud had like Popeye arms, and Squall looked like an actual person.
Right.
That was a big deal.
Right. It was. It was. And when I asked you, how old were you in '99?
Oh man, I think I was probably like 13, I believe.
Okay. Okay, cool. So you were about the same age I was when I played. I was 14 when I played 7. So,
Yeah.
and 6 for the first time. But yeah, you were around that age. And was that the game that got you into Final Fantasy?
Oh no, no, no. I got into Final Fantasy like probably around like the NES era because of
I
yeah,
forgot about that.
yeah, just because of
JRPG episode.
Dragon Warrior. Like my friend had Final Fantasy and he didn't know exactly how to play it because he had never played a JRPG before. So I was like, "Oh, this is a JRPG," or not, I didn't say JRPG back then. I was like, "Oh, this is a role playing game," But yeah,
Yeah, it's a pretty solid game, Final Fantasy VIII. I will say this too. I remember I played that same demo disc, not the Pizza Hut one, but I played the same demo, but it was in one of those official PlayStation magazine
hmm
things. I'll say this about the demo. I don't know if you remember, but remember the music was very different,
it was.
and you know why they changed it, right?
Uh-uh.
Because some people were complaining that the music sounded too much like the soundtrack to Michael Bay's The Rock.
Oh wow.
Yeah, something like
Huh.
that. That's what I could be wrong, but that's what I remember hearing. So that's why when you do that section in the game, it's different. There's also other differences. You have
hmm
Rinoa as opposed to Selfie. Squall's dressed in his regular outfit. They're all dressed in their regular outfits, whereas in the main game they're in their steed outfits.
Yeah.
So it's just stuff like that. Before we go on about FF8, I have to ask you: are you with me? Do you think the Squall is dead theory is stupid as fuck?
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those theories like I watched it and kind of like chuckled, but I'm like, nah, I don't really think that's a real thing.
I saw that scene where he supposedly dies. They say he gets hit in the heart. My son even pointed this out. He gets hit in the right side. Your heart is on the fucking left.
Yeah.
And he gets hit in the shoulder area
hmm
by Adia's magical spell. So, yeah.
I will say this about Final Fantasy VIII though is it kind of surprised me when they made the HD remaster announcement
Mhm.
because I mean I'll be honest, and I've kind of changed my aspect of Final Fantasy VIII myself as I've been playing the HD remaster. I feel like I've
Mhm.
I've kind of matured a little bit more of a gamer and I can kind of appreciate it a lot more. Hell, I
Yeah.
actually enjoy playing Triple Triad where I used to hate Triple Triad,
Right.
but I was kind of surprised because so many people were excited for Final Fantasy VIII, and I was like, "Wait, wasn't this like the black sheep of the PlayStation One era Final Fantasies? Like
Yep.
this is the one that everyone freaking hated."
Yep. Yep, exactly. You know what? This is what I like about you. You always call out people on those hypocrisies, which happen over and over and over again, right?
Yeah, it was so weird.
Yeah. So my whole thing on this, Xander, is you are absolutely right. I remember watching that E3 conference back in June,
Mm-hmm.
and the biggest pop was for fucking Final Fantasy VII remake, obviously. But let's be honest, people popped for 8, and I was thinking that's cool. That'll give me a chance to replay it. However, I bet a bunch of you bitched about how shitty that game is to you. I'm not saying it's shitty by any means
Yeah.
because I have a few opinions on it after playing a good chunk of the remaster. But yeah, they were complaining about it, and I was wondering why is everyone so pumped about this when a lot of people bitched about it.
Yeah.
Drawing sucks, junction sucks, blah blah blah. Triple triad sucks. The story sucks.
Yeah, like Squall, and Squall was infamous for being like an emo guy. Like, oh, it's the emo fantasy game. It was just really weird to see how people changed when they announced the HD remaster. But like Anthony, would you say that maybe your opinion of the game has changed after playing it after all this time, like playing it again in the HD remaster?
I liked it back in '99. I only played it once back in '99. No, twice. I beat it twice in '99, 2000, right?
Uh huh.
And I really liked it, but I never revisited it for whatever reason. And I guess it was just overridden by some of the other games. So yes, my opinion has changed because at the time, my understanding of character development was like if they had a deep backstory, that blew my mind, and it still does. But character development isn't just based off of backstory.
Yeah.
And they do have interesting backstories in this so far, but it's really like what makes this game's these characters. And let me break this down from a story point aspect is there's a lot of inner thought with Squall,
Yeah.
a lot of inner monologue, and there's scenes. I don't know how far you are.
Oh, I'm not that far. I haven't played that much, but I mean, I played it a long time ago, so you're not really going to spoil anything,
Oh,
really.
okay. I was just wondering how fresh your memory was on it because I
Yeah.
forgot a lot about that game too. But so it is fresh for me now, which is awesome. Um, so my whole thing with this is, how can I put it? There's a lot of inner thought. The character interactions are absolutely outstanding. There's a lot of little nuances to this game that really makes it stand out.
Yeah.
Like you could already see the effect. I'm at the end of the first disc, so I remember them saying this game was a love story, and I thought, oh well, I didn't real other than the scene in the spaceship, I didn't really see it, but now I understand that more because what's happening is Squall's questioning things as opposed to shutting everyone off and just following orders to
Yeah.
protect himself. And I know everyone's like, he's an emo, he's an emo. No, this is a guy who's damaged, and you're helping him get undamaged. In every video game you play, Xander, let me ask you this. Every character starts, it's a hero story, right?
Yeah.
For example, Zelda, Link starts with absolutely nothing, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But in these JRPGs, these characters start out as somewhat damaged or kind of an asshole or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But they break out of that shell. And that's the love story in Final Fantasy VIII. There's not no making out or sex scenes. It's about a woman this guy meets who's breaking him out of his shell. And the other love story is the Laguna stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, really, the story has hit me as I'm probably more impressed with the story than I was then. And I might say if the story keeps up, because I'm at the beginning of disc 2,
Mm-hmm.
I will say this game will probably move higher on my top 10 Final Fantasies
Yeah.
if it
Yeah.
was even on there.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I have to say, as a gamer that's older with more responsibilities, I love these HD remasters because I do like the whole like speeding, like the
Mm-hmm.
boss, or not the boss, but the battle speed. I like that a lot because I mean, there's so many times that I would just sit there and just go through the battles and just go through them as fast as I could with the fast pace, and I'm like, man, this makes it so much easier.
Especially for drawing. I
Oh
mean, that's
yeah.
the big. I mean, that's the big complaint, and I was a little defensive at first, but it is getting a little bit monotonous. But it's not game breaking.
Yeah, drawing and another thing that was a big catalyst when I first played the game years ago that I got tired of was the summons. How long the
Oh,
summons were in that game.
oh yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I agree with that. I absolutely think they're still long, but I fast forward them now, so it's not
Yeah.
that big of a deal. Uh, but here's the interesting thing: is how drawing and how you use it. Like for example, with junctioning, I think it really makes you create your own class from scratch. Really,
Hmm.
Materia System did that, but I think there's a more in-depth aspect to junctioning. Not saying let's not say that. Let's say Materia System is its own thing.
Yeah.
Okay, but junctioning kind of lets you build the characters in their own way. So like Squall, I have him set up with HP junction. I drew 100 Kiragas from Diablos, right?
Hmm.
And I put that on HP, rose his HP significantly. I drew a ton of flares from it, made his strength raise significantly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like he's never gonna cast those spells. So I can probably use that build for a long fucking time. What do you think?
Yeah, and another thing that's interesting about Final Fantasy VIII is Final Fantasy VIII, unlike some RPGs, where when I play an RPG, I will grind just to make my characters OP. But oh
Mm-hmm.
well, this boss, you need to be at least a level 10 to beat this boss. I want to be like a level 20, So I'll sit there and grind and grind and grind. Where Final Fantasy VIII, the enemies actually level up with you.
Yeah.
So if you grind and you make yourself like OP, that boss is going to be OP too, which I thought was a really nice little twist that I never noticed as much until I came back to the HD remaster. I'm like, oh shit, that's right.
What other Final Fantasy does that? There
I
is one other one.
I can't think of it.
Tactics. Except the difference between
Ah,
tactics is that only the random encounters and secret missions scale. The bosses don't.
okay.
So it's real easy to grind to progress through the main story. That's the secret to that game, which makes it a lot easier because tactics is a difficult game.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah,
I
that's
hadn't played
really
I hadn't played that in a long time,
I haven't either. I played it last on the PSP with the War of the Lions,
which is a really good
and I
port.
have. Oh, it is, and I'll be honest, the iPhone port for it is pretty solid.
Hmm.
So I have it on my phone. I should just play that.
Hmm.
So anyway, so yeah, you like the level scaling, right? I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else do you like about FF8, bud?
I mean, I really like the I like Triple Triad, which is funny because at the time I remember for the longest time I didn't like Triple Triad, and I don't know, something just clicked, and maybe I was just much more impatient of a gamer back in the day that I kind of just wanted to just go through it. And I was like, I don't want to play this, But now I found myself like I spent like an hour and a half just running around going into card battles.
Yeah, card battles are fun. I agree with you. I didn't really play a lot of Triple Triad, but I'm the type that gets pissed if I lose like my Ifrit card and I'll reload the game.
Oh, I did that.
So
I did that.
yeah, I did that too. But yeah, I'm that guy. But I think I have enough cards now where I'm at where I think I can hold my own. And it's a lot of summon cards because I got like the brothers. You remember the brothers?
Mm-hmm.
They each have a card, and I have Diabolos's card, and I have Ifrit's card. The ones that are hard to get are the cards like for Squall and stuff, if I remember correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are
Best
always
card,
a little
Xander.
tough.
What's your best card?
I'm trying to. I mean, right now I haven't worked back through the game that much, so I'm still rocking my Infert card for now. So I haven't played that much of it.
Yeah, yeah. I think you get you somewhere easy, not far. You get a Quetzalcoatl card
Mm-hmm.
too. So I don't know,
Well,
but I'm safe to say that FF8 gets a lot of unfair flack.
yeah, and I will say, after all these years, it's nice to see that the game is getting some recognition, and it's turning some people's minds, like myself, who was never really that big of a Final Fantasy VIII fan, being like, hey, this game's actually not too bad. But another thing I want to talk about with 999, because I didn't want to run out of too much
Hmm.
time with the show, is of course the launch of the Dreamcast. Um, the
Oh
swan
yeah.
song of the Sega console. I mean, this was such an interesting console. Now, did you get a Dreamcast like around launch, or was it years later that you got a Dreamcast?
I got a Dreamcast early on, but not during launch. So I got mine in May of 2000.
Okay, yeah, because I got mine way, way, way later. Like I'm talking about 2012 later.
Oh yeah.
That's when I got one. It was a console I always was curious about. I remember, I think I was just about everyone else, going to the game store and seeing Ready to Rumble and just being completely mesmerized by the graphics with that. And
Oh yeah.
it was funny because I was playing Dreamcast not too long ago. I want to say like 2 weeks ago, I was playing it, and my girlfriend's like oldest son, he's like 11. He never saw a Dreamcast before, and I showed him the controller and I showed him the VMU, and he was like, "Man, that's so futuristic looking," which is really funny considering that it's a 20-year-old console,
Oh
and
yeah.
and he's like, "Man, that's really futuristic." Which I mean, back then it was that VMU inside the controller. I mean, you could take that VMU out and play mini games that would tell you what game was on the screen, and it was really something special. It was more than just a memory card.
And then the DLC. Remember, some games had DLC that was free.
Yeah.
Like if you played Sonic Adventure 2, I agree with you on the VMU, but just adding to how ahead of its time. Like you could download, if you're playing Sonic Adventure during Christmas time, you could download like the Christmas theme, and some of the levels would be like with Christmas trees and such. Not
Yeah.
a big deal, but kind of like added to that flavor. And from what I heard, that shit is still up.
Yeah. I mean, there are people that still have found a way to rig up and do Dreamcast online still to this day. I mean,
Yeah,
there's people still somewhere out there that are playing Fantasy Star Online on their Dreamcast, which is
that's
insane.
that's crazy, man. That's crazy. So I know a lot of people. I want to know this because we just talked about how there's still a lot of people play Fantasy Star. There's a lot of people who say it's the greatest console of all time. I'm gonna say that it's not for me personally, but it's probably one of the most fun consoles. Now, why do I say that? Not saying I didn't have fun on my best ones, but the difference between say the PlayStation is I had more visceral experiences that affected me on emotional levels
Yeah.
and made me appreciate story like Metal Gear Solid, Xenogears, Final Fantasy, whatever. I had only two of those experiences really on the Dreamcast. Three if you count Code Veronica. I'll say Code Veronica too, and
Yeah.
maybe that Berserk game. But I would say it's probably the one of the most fun because I mean I had fun with so many people playing Power Stone 2 or playing uh, Crazy Taxi or that Gundam game that came out for it. Like a
Hmm.
real like it was the closest. No, it was the only time at that era that I think the arcade actually came home.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, and that's one of the reasons why. For a while, it was probably, I would tell people it was my favorite console of all time for a while, and I think that's the reasons because I'm a much more of an arcade player. Like I like playing arcade style games, just
Mm-hmm.
because they're easy to pick up and they're fun. And
Right.
and that's really what the Dreamcast was. I mean, you had Power Stone, you had Ready to Rumble, you had all these wonderful Capcom games. Soul Calibur, which was actually better on the Dreamcast than it was on
Yep.
the arcade. It was better, which was really unheard of. I mean, most of the time that arcade ports came out to consoles, they were trying to be as close as they could to the arcade, where this was actually better. And yeah, it was just something about it that made it so special. And I mean, it sucks that the thing that really drew out Dreamcast that kind of made it fail was of course the PS2 announcement, and also the
Right.
fact that it was such an easy console to hack and pirate. I'm not gonna lie. I have a whole stack of burnt Dreamcast games. I mean, it's really not that hard to do.
Co- Confession time, Xander. Don't put me in this position. Oh shit! But who cares a fuck? This was almost 20 years ago. When you have a whole stack of what are they called, GD-ROMs or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay, but basically you burn those on a CD.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy at school. This was in September of 2000, so the Dreamcast was still alive and well, right?
Yeah.
Shenmue was around the corner. This guy sold me a total of 8 Dreamcast games for $30,
Oh
along
wow.
with a disc. Yep, along with this disc that I would have to use to activate it.
Yeah, yeah, because back then you had to use the boot up disc. I mean, there's still some games you need a boot up disc for, but it's progressed so much that you can just take an average CDR and burn a Dreamcast game. But yeah, I remember like honestly that was the one thing that made me be like, okay, I want to buy a Dreamcast because it was years later, 2012, and I was like, I've never had a Dreamcast. I kind of want one, and the games are really easy to burn on CDs, so I think I'm going to get one. And I mean, I have some legit Dreamcast games too, like Shenmue and Sonic Adventure and stuff like. I mean, I have a pretty humble Dreamcast collection, but a lot of the more expensive ones like Cannon Spike, I have a burnt copy of that,
Right.
because that game's like way too expensive. I remember I did a review of it, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, that game's so rare and it's so hard to find." I didn't even know the value of it until I looked on eBay. I'm like, "Holy shit, yeah, that's a really expensive game that I have burnt on a CD. That's awesome." But yeah,
Do you have the port of Ikaruga?
yes,
Okay. I was gonna ask because I have that game's been ported so much, rightfully so. I
yeah.
have the Switch version right now that I play the hell out of. But my question to you is, how is that Dreamcast port?
It's really good. I mean, the only difference is it's in Japanese.
Oh yeah, that's right. Never came here, huh? We didn't get it till the GameCube version, right?
Right.
That's right. That's what I forgot about that. So that's a good one. What did what was another game that was great on there that it's broken as fuck now, but I played the hell out of it, was Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned how to be cheap with cable. I'm sorry, um but funny, there real quick funny story. At that same mall we had an arcade. And my school, I was 17, this was several months after. No, this is about a year after the infamous FF8. We had this event, and there's all these kids from schools, like some fucking science of competition. And there's this motherfucker who I was playing a game of Marvel vs. Capcom, and I could beat that game on 1/4, right? Because I'd practiced so much, right, Xander?
Yeah.
This fucking kid comes in and cheaps me out. Now, I'm one to talk because I was cable. He cheaps me out with Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pissed because he ruined my game. So I walk around for a little bit, and the kid is at the final boss, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he looks at me, and he goes, no, please let me beat the game. I go, nope, you didn't let me. And I kicked his ass. He was so pissed. But, he was like an introverted kid, so he didn't really say anything. And again, me being a little bit of an asshole, I was, but I guess that was revenge. But I have all these funny, really bad stories with this date. We shouldn't do this topic again, Xander. Makes me look bad. Worse than I already do.
Well, I was gonna say because we do have some questions.
Ooh,
Let's get into the because I believe if you wanna do the whole spiel on this because we have a Discord, correct? With Blast Podcasting.
Yeah, I have a Magus X1 Discord, but like anything that I've done, like with the old Facebook group and everything, it's become really a hub for everyone that I associate with. So it's really not my Discord server. It's really become a hub, and you'll probably be joining soon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a Blast Podcasting and Absolute Counter. And Darkstream had the idea of asking the Discord server for questions, and we've been getting it. So I asked you the other day if we can do it. We got some questions. We got 4 to be exact.
Yeah, let's go over those real quick.
So let's go over them from the earliest asked to the second to the most recent. So we have our first question is from Onireo 1991, and he asks, "What is your take?" This is not a Dreamcast related question, Xander. We do have some of those though.
Okay.
What is your take about times when nostalgia overstates its welcome in recent years?
What? I'm trying to figure out what that means. Like,
When nostalgia becomes too much or it overrides the narrative. I'll give you an example. Ready Player One.
yeah,
Okay, so go ahead.
yeah. I mean, I'm the kind of person like I love nostalgia, but I feel like it needs to be done tastefully. If not, then it becomes very tacky. Like you said, Ready Player One's a good example. Also, Big Bang Theory is a big example. That's why I can't stand that show, just because it's very, very just tacky with nerd culture and nostalgia. And
Yep.
then some of the stuff that comes out with like retro gaming, some of the stuff that I see with that, I'm just kind of like, oh god, like I know some people are going to hate me saying this, but like stuff with limited run. A limited
Oh
run
yeah.
doing reprints and reproductions of NES games. Like they have one out right now with Metal Storm. They had one with Star Wars. They had I Am 8-Bit. They did a $250 Street Fighter 2 Super Nintendo cartridge, and people were going
Yeah.
gaga over it. And it was a reproduction cartridge that could possibly mess up your Super Nintendo. And I was just like, oh my god. To me, I can't stand that.
Exactly. And that's do you really need that Super Nintendo cart in a world where we live with Street Fighter collections with arcade perfect ports?
I
Just
know.
saying. Exactly. That's yeah. And I see your point. If it's gonna fuck up your Super Nintendo, that's bullshit. Real quick to my point, I'll make this quick. My problem with a lot of these nostalgia shows is I think when you reference something, it should be in service of the story, right?
Yeah.
Now, if it's a cool reference here and there, that's fine. That's one of my biggest beefs with Ready Player One because the references do not service the story. The story is just there to service the references, and it's not very well written. If you're going to write a story, you should focus on character development, plot. Even sometimes character development can come secondary, or even plot development. Just depends on what kind of story. But those things, structure, pacing, all those things should come first, not the references. And that's the problem with Ready Player One. There's no
Oh
really
yeah.
character development. It's all about these references. Oh, I'm getting some corporation's going to kill me. Oh, cool. There's a defender machine. And even the references aren't that very good. But
Yeah.
then you got things like the new It. You've seen the first one, right?
Right.
There's that Street Fighter reference. But that services the plot for that character, Richie, right? For his arc.
Yeah.
It doesn't, the story does not service that reference. Does that make sense to you? That's my problem with stuff like that. Big Bang and I'll go as far as say Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not a big fan of Stranger Things, but that's just me.
I
You
have I watched the first season. I enjoyed it, but I haven't watched any more of it since.
maybe it just didn't impress you a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's that question. Shall we move on to the next?
Yeah.
Okay. Our next question is from our mutual friend, BioPhoenix. Okay. Oh, I got a question. Do you know any games that were coming out for the Dreamcast at the time that looked interesting but got canceled? I can't think of any. You?
The only one I can think of is the Castlevania Dreamcast game,
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
which was really weird. It had Sonia Belmont, and Dracula was a female, which was kind of interesting. It was like a gender swap Castlevania. Uh, it never saw the light of day other than a promotion, but that would have been nice to see that come out in some sort of fashion.
I don't know if this is necessarily canceled, but the only other one that I know of is Shenmue 2's US release. Of course, we got that on the Xbox, but for the Dreamcast, we never got it.
Yeah. Oh
But I don't know if
yeah.
that really counts.
Oh yeah. And also, Blue Stinger was going to have a sequel. Blue Stinger is like the B movie of survival horrors. I mean, it's so bad it's good, but the developer or the creator passed away, so they never made a sequel. But they were going to make a Red Stinger.
Oh, damn. Red Stinger, huh?
Yep.
I've heard good things about Blue Stinger. There's some people who legitimately like it and think that it's not so bad it's good, that it's actually a solid game.
I enjoyed it.
So
I
I never
enjoyed it. I mean,
played
it's
it.
cheesy.
You
It's
did?
cheesy, but yeah, I played it. I enjoy it.
Maybe I should buy a Dreamcast and do what you do. You got me tempted, good sir.
Oh yeah.
Play Skies of Arcadia.
Hell yeah.
That's a game we didn't even talk about. Um, but yeah. So next question. This one's going to add a little bit of a visual aid. You know which one I'm going to ask, right?
Yes.
Okay, this is from my other podcast partner and good friend, Darkstream Xander. You would consider him a friend, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Thoughts on Darkstream's a good dude. He asks thoughts on Sega's official Dreamcast humanoid design from Sega Hard Girls, and he showed us a picture. I don't know if you can maybe throw a picture in the podcast or a link or something.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be too hard?
I could probably do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he showed us this picture of a pink-haired girl in like yellow-white clothing. Her hair's is ponytailed, but at the ends they're curled in the Dreamcast design. What do you think of her?
I saw it and I was like, okay, that's cool. I mean, I don't really know too much more of a backstory of like what like what it's about or anything like that. But I mean, it looked cool.
The only reference I could do, because I'm in the same boat as you are,
Yeah.
is I never even heard of this game till yesterday, to be honest. My only thing about this is, how do you think of it as sort of a mascot for the Dreamcast? Should it have been one? Let's ask it that way.
I don't see where it would help any of the marketing if that was the mascot for the Dreamcast, especially for that time.
Maybe in Japan.
Yeah, in Japan, but I mean,
but not here.
Yeah, America back in like '99 was all about Tood and skateboarding and just just like craziness. So I mean, we were still stuck in the time of like Jinko pants and Go-Gurt. So I don't think it would have really went too well on our side.
And I never participated in either of those. You?
I had a pair of Jinkos at one point. I won't lie.
I didn't. So all my money went towards video games, dude. So there you go. And Jinkos weren't cheap. That was a pretty good question. I have the last question. This is a good way to end it. This is from Jonah. Okay. Would you say remasters of or remakes of old games from the 90s, such as Crash and Spyro, are good as they are when the originals came out at the time, or would you call these remakes and remasters of old games at best necessary? Also, what is the one game you want to see either remastered or remade?
Here's the thing. When it comes to the Crash trilogy, I can't speak on the Spyro because I haven't played that, but the Crash trilogy, for some reason, I feel like it's broken, like gameplay wise. Okay. The input it's got like a lot of input lag. Where I played Crash Bandicoot on my PS3 and I got a lot further, and it wasn't as hard as the HD remaster was. Like something just wasn't right with that. But when it comes to like HD remasters of like older games, I'm a big fan of it, especially if it's a series that's been dormant for a very long time that could give life to new games from that IP, or if it's a game that has been really expensive. Like a great example would be Metal Wolf Chaos. It just came out for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Steam. It was stuck in Japan for 15 years for the original Xbox, and it finally came out. And I played it. I didn't like it as much as I wanted to like it, but I was able to finally play it without getting a modded Xbox or paying up the wazoo for an eBay game price of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, or even something like Grandia Collection, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add, surprisingly. I agree with everything you said, though.
I will say the only time I'm kind of like turned off is like a great example was when the PS4 was just launching, when we had the PS4 come out and we didn't have that backwards capability, and they were putting out all the PS3 games on PS4's HD remasters, like the Uncharted HD remaster, Last of Us, God of War 3. I'm like, come on.
I agree. And that's the thing that was crazy about that was like the fucking Last of Us came out a year later. I think when it's like a game too soon, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But when it's something going to what Jonah said, going into the 90s, I think that's a whole different case, though. But
Hmm.
that also depends on execution. I mean, look at the Final Fantasy VIII remaster or 7 or 9. They do have some quality of life improvements too.
Hmm.
So let's close this off with the last question. What
Okay.
is the one game you want to see either remaster or remade?
Honestly, I would love to see a remaster or even a remake of the original Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd love to see that.
I'm one of those weird people that like one better than two.
I can understand that. I mean, two is good, but I think two gets a lot of phrase for Pyramid Head.
I think that's why, because Pyramid Head kind of blew up. I think the difference for me was, and also there's those goofy ass endings.
Yeah.
I think with Silent Hill 1, you didn't really see that. It was all tonal, everything was bleak and such. Something we might talk about next episode, though. So let's save that about Silent Hill. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds
Hint,
like a
hint,
good idea. Yeah.
hint, hint. Um, Mine, you probably know what it is, Xander. Take one guess.
What, Xenogears?
Yes,
Yeah.
either. I'll take both. Fuck it. I really think that game can benefit from a remaster for a couple of reasons. One, a new translation. Now, I'm not saying the old one was bad. I don't know if you know this though, but the translation was worked on by one guy,
Oh
and he
wow.
says it nearly literally killed him,
Damn.
because that's an 80-hour RPG with tons of cutscenes, and it has little voice acting.
Wow.
Yeah. So in a new translation, I think those sprites could be smoothed out, because I think that game has aged greatly graphic wise. And my other wish would be, I don't hate the second disc like a lot of people. You've heard of the second disc, right?
No, I haven't. That's still like you remember last episode. That's still a
Yeah.
JRPG I need to play.
Well, I only asked because that the second disc is something that spoke about a lot in that game. So I thought maybe you would hear it because you run in the JRPG circles.
Yeah.
But the second disc becomes exceptionally linear and becomes like this strange cutscenes, dungeon cutscenes thing. And I don't mind it, and I get why they did it, because we wouldn't have a complete game. But I would like to see them go back and rework that second disc.
Yeah.
Not remake it with new graphics, but with what they had back then, because I'm sure that's plausible.
Hmm.
So that's what I would like to see. A remake, seeing what they're doing with Final Fantasy VII, yeah, that's an absolute yes. But that's all I got to say on that.
Like, would you want to see a Xenogears remake like as the Final Fantasy remake, or maybe just like cleaned up, kind of like the Grandia HD remaster?
I'd like to see either, but like I said, I think there needs to be more than just a cleaned up for that game.
Yeah, maybe just a better translation, which has happened in the past. I mean, look at some of the like Chrono Trigger reports and stuff like that.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VI got a retranslation.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, dude, like I said, taking that second disc and reworking it into more what the first disc was, I don't think that would be that difficult
Yeah.
for that game. So, because that's a PlayStation game, so if they have all the assets, they can easily do that. And in fact, some of what was cut from the second disc, you know how like sometimes you could hack a disc and find what's in
Yeah,
there
find
that's been
like
missing?
code. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton of coding and character models and a couple songs even that have been cut. So it's all there.
They could just make a really nice collector's anniversary collection. There you go.
That was last year. Shit, maybe a 22 year or a 23.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that's what I got to say on that.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I think this concludes another episode of Blast Podcasting, and I will say, uh, if you haven't, be sure to check out the Discord, Magus X1 Discord, and leave questions, because I really did enjoy the questions sent from the listeners. Definitely, I really like that.
Hell yeah, it'll be fun, and I think what we'll do is maybe a couple days before we record, we'll tell people what we're doing, and of course they can ask us anything as long as it's not too personal, obviously.
Yeah.
But they can ask us anything about what we talked about: movies, games, music, whatever. But also, if you want, you can especially ask us questions about the topic. And I think next episode, we'll give you guys an opportunity to give us quite a few questions. And maybe it might not, I don't know yet, but it might not be just Xander and I.
Yeah.
So it might not be, but it might be. So there you go. That's all I got to say on that.
Indeed, indeed. As always, guys, thanks for listening. And as always, we'll be blasting off to the next episode.